Have you on the show. All right, so there's a lot going on in New York, and I want to get your perspective. This vote was supposed to happen on Monday. It was postponed. Now diplomats say they want perhaps maybe water down this draft, sort of specific words from lasting cessation to the suspension of hostilities. And again, the U.S. is going to play a very key role here. It has to make them happy, or else we're going to get another veto.
Yes. Look, the only reason why we're here, quite frankly, is because the U.S., suffered an extended defeat by the vote in the General Assembly last week, where the vote was overwhelmingly in favor of a ceasefire. That put the pressure back on the Security Council to come up with something. The U.S. realized how isolated it and Israel were with respect to the discussions of the future of this war. We're now actually negotiating and talking about a UN Security Council resolution that's probably at the lowest common denominator. It certainly is weaker than the one that was defeated 10 days ago. But it talks about an extended humanitarian pause. It reminds the parties of their obligations under international humanitarian law, international human rights law. It emphasizes the urgent need for the delivery of humanitarian aid, for the protection of UN staff, for the protection of hospitals and healthcare workers, all of which are important. But it doesn't talk about a ceasefire, only about this extended humanitarian pause.
If this UN Security Council resolution is passed, how should we look at it? Is it the glass half full, or is it glass half empty?
Well, it's right. It's certainly anybody wishing well with respect to ending this conflict and ending the civilians' suffering would want to take anything positive coming from this. It does talk about indiscriminate use of force in Gaza. It does emphasize probably 5 or 6 times the centrality of international humanitarian law, and it does emphasize the suffering of the civilian population in Gaza. So those who are thinking about whether or not this might lay the basis for more pressure on the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to accelerate his investigation into the potential of war crimes and crimes against humanity as a result of what's been going on in Gaza since the 7th of October, will find some, relief in some of the language in the draft resolution that I've seen, and we can only hope that all of this results in some accountability for the suffering we've seen in Israel and in Gaza.
What type of war crimes can actually be applicable here?
Oh, look, a large number of them. For one, collective punishment is a war crime under international humanitarian law. The punishment of the many for the crimes of the few. The use by Israel of starvation and the denial of the necessities of life to a civilian population by their cutting off of food, water, fuel, power. Indiscriminate bombing of a largely civilian population with the extraordinary civilian death toll would be a third area where the prosecutor, I'm sure, is looking very closely at with regards to this. And obviously the attacks on October 7th, the targeting and killing of Israeli civilians by Hamas or other Palestinian armed groups, the indiscriminate firing of rockets into Israeli civilian areas, the taking of hostages, all of those are war crimes as well, and I'm sure are at the very top of the pile of allegations in front of the prosecutor. So all of these, I hope, will wind up making movement at the Hague. Keep in mind that after each of the prior 3 major assaults on Gaza in 2008, 2009, 2014 and 2018, detailed reports by independent human rights experts were commissioned by the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. And each occasion, serious allegations of war crimes were made either against Israel or against Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups, and yet nothing was done. And in large part, we're here in 2023 because we had complete impunity and a lack of accountability for prior allegations of war crimes being committed over the last 15 years. Let's hope this marks a difference.
Okay. Stanley Michael Lynk, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. Do appreciate it, sir.